Realistic school girls.
5432.
Wait for credit card. I just listen to girls say, and then it's all.
54321.
Hi there, up there in Radio Land.
Well, it's now my pleasure to say hello to the 3 degrees. We were going to meet them by degrees, namely 1, 2, 3, but one of the trio is missing, so we'll start with
Fayette, Valerie,
and, excuse me, Sheila is on her way back to us in a few minutes. Can we start with you?
Certainly.
I've read somewhere, I don't believe it, that the 3 degrees were formed in 1964.
Really?
Yes.
That's correct, actually, about 65, I think.
You're having me on.
We were in high school.
You must have been in junior school. Kindergarten.
Yeah.
As they
Well,
call it in
yeah,
Germany.
I'd like to think of it like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Walking around without
No,
one.
Yeah, we
honestly,
were
thank
in
you.
school, and we were just, we had, well, in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Sheila and I both came from Philadelphia. And we were all in college preparatory courses. But meanwhile, we were always joining all kinds of groups and different things. I was in everything from dancing school to Girl Scouts, and so
Yeah.
joining a group was just no new thing for me. And we just took little weekends from school. I mean, not from school, but when we were out of school, we'd
Yeah.
take on weekends and we'd go away, maybe a couple 100 miles, and do an engagement, or we'd record a record and go back to school.
But none of you look a day over 16. This is what gets me.
Well, you're
Honestly.
correct. We're only a few days over, a few 100 days over
sure.
16.
Yeah.
Watch it.
So you've actually been together 10 years,
No, actually, we've been together about 8 years.
about 8 years.
Because we were just in school. The 3 of us did not get together until 8 years ago, because I was messing around singing with the group. Valerie was a single, then at that time living in Boston, and we didn't even know her.
Yeah.
And Sheila was a single act also, who had the same manager, Richard Barrett.
Yes.
And when we finally started getting kind of serious about it, we were all getting ready to graduate high school. We decided that maybe we'd actually take it a little more seriously and try to really get down and make it super good. And Sheila, at that time, replaced a young lady who got ill. So she stayed in the group because she liked it. We had always worked together. We had always recorded together. She'd be our strengthening factor, and we would be her background,
That's-
when she would sing. So we went to Boston performing, like the first year after we got out of high school, and the third party in the group got ill, and she decided that show business was a bit rough for her. So she wanted to get out, and a young man, a dancer named Frank Hatchett, had met Valerie and seen Valerie in a nightclub and said she was the perfect girl for our group. And she was. First of all, she smoked cool cigarettes. Second of all, she could do the silly dog, which was out at the time. So, honestly, after that, it's been 8 years, and 8 years of absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been a pleasure for us on the receiving end anyway. You used a phrase a couple of seconds ago, called super good. Now, that really describes your sound at the moment.
Aww.
Now, prior to the Philly sound,
Uh-huh. What sound did we have?
what did you call that particular sound?
It was more, more pop.
Yeah.
We were doing things like, not so commercial a sound, like the things that the kids really get down in the discotheques and the guys in the pubs and things get down with now. We were doing songs like Stardust and Sly and the Family. We did some pretty hit things.
Yeah, Sly and the Family.
Yeah,
songs as
right,
well,
that,
yes.
and Frank Sinatra. We just kept a pretty well-rounded act and a
Things
pretty
like
well-rounded
Rose Garden,
album.
Rip Off
Right,
the Park.
exactly,
You know, the thing is, with the fantastic success that your sound has nowadays, would you disavow all knowledge of the old recordings?
No, only because our manager produced those. And it's fortunate that, now, first of all, he punched me in the nose about that.
Yeah, well, now that Richie is out, Richie's not here now, so you can take
No, but we took much, much more time and much, much more effort at that time to record. And, we don't feel bad about any of the other records that we've made that are on that album, particularly. Now, somebody might have a couple on the side, but, no, honestly, they were masterpieces in themselves. They just were not as commercial as this sound is,
No,
first
they
of
weren't.
all. And second of all, we couldn't get a real good recording company to back us like CBS does.
That's right.
And Philadelphia International, they're beautiful people. They work really hard, particularly over here.
Yeah.
Really, really hard. And it's very fortunate that we finally ran into some people who are willing to work as hard as we are, because we've been doing it for a long time, and there've been lots of groups coming and going. and like the Supremes, for example, and they sort of had like a favoritism in the States, and we could not find a company large enough to buck up against the favoritism that they had. So it was actually a matter of the fact that nobody wanted to let another group in. They were all in love with all these other acts, and it was always like, well, you could get some nice material, but you're unknown. We're going to give it to so-and-so. And we said, well, like, how are we ever going to get known if you don't ever give us some halfway decent material? So our manager just got angry, and we put our own album together and went to Roulette Records, who was pretty heavy stuff. They did pretty good. At least you got it.
This was
right?
after Swan, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were that's how you knew about 1965.
Well, I've always been a fan of the 3 Degrees, you see. So,
I
I follow their history.
Yeah, that's really flattering. You know, when you've been working so long and for so many years and people know it, they don't give you that, how does it feel to be a star overnight, you know?
Yeah.
You know? And did you just got in the business? 8 years? Oh, my, where were you all that time? But
Yeah,
it's
you've had a hard
thank
slog.
you. We appreciate that.
Actually, you keep saying things which lead to other questions. You mentioned the Supremes earlier.
Yes.
Dare I comment on the fact
Sure,
that
we think they're
everybody
great.
says you are trying to outdo the Supremes,
They would say that.
copying their style?
They
and
would
what
say
have you.
that.
The Tamla Motown fans would say it, of course. but
Yes,
how
they
do you
would
feel
say
about
that.
it, though?
It's
Yeah.
untrue. Because first of all, we've never seen the Supremes live.
Yeah. Really?
Second of all, right, that's absolutely true. Second of all, we've only seen about 3 acts in show business live, besides singles like Tony Bennett or Engelbert Humperdinck,
Yeah.
because our manager did not. Oh, stop! Our manager did not want us to emulate or copy off of anyone. And when our manager put the group together, he put together 3 individual soloists on purpose, because that would give us that little difference, that little edge. That if you did not like Sheila, you may like Valerie. If you did not like Valerie, you may like Fayette. And then collectively, we also sing just, say, Andrew Sister style, McGuire, or Beverly Sister style. And we've done that for years, too. We used to do
Have you
a
really?
skit on them, yeah. We used to sing Apple Tree and Mr. Sandman and all those kind of things.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
And then also, we do all of our own choreography. We do all of our own designing. We do all of our own makeup, our hairstyles, and our everything. And we have always done this for 8 years. Whereas Motown has an entire different setup. They have choreographers, and it's almost like being fed with a silver spoon.
That's right,
Well, we
yes.
really got it the hard way, and we didn't copy off anybody. So I think the only similarity could be possibly that the 3 of us, 3 of them, women, black, and fortunately, halfway decent looking.
More than halfway, I would say. I'll give you a throw to
Yeah.
rest and
Thank
move
you.
across the way a little bit.
You've asked her all the interesting questions.
No,
I'm
I
sure
haven't.
he has more.
No, I've got some more, I hope.
Yeah.
One of the things I was going to ask, actually, was the fact that in the old days, Richard Barrett used to write a lot of your material. Suddenly he doesn't anymore. Is there any particular reason other than Gamble and Huff?
Other than Gamble and Huff, also I guess it would be because he's on the road traveling with us now the majority of the time.
Yeah.
And he conducts our show, and he oversees, you know, everything that goes on with the lighting and sound system and staging and everything. So actually, he's a little too busy right now
Well,
to find the time.
In fact, before you came in, I said to Richie, how come you don't write songs anymore? And he said, I'm too busy with these
Right.
crazy, crazy young ladies. That's something I told you. A quick hello to Sheila. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
May I ask? I didn't.
5 minutes, look at your
Okay, folks, forget it.
old man,
Well, we're on about your records. That was a big hit, by the way, wasn't it? In America, but not in Britain.
No, it wasn't a hit in America either.
Wasn't it really?
No.
I was under the
We're
impression it
just
was.
actually starting in the States. When Will I See You Again is on the charts at the moment, and it's about 50. Yeah, with a bullet.
Well, we're stuck now. The British top 30 has When Will I See You Again at number 30, with no new single planned as far as we know.
We're
the
just
album
doing the new
days.
single today.
Today.
You're right, on the television show that we're doing.
Aha. What television show?
Trust.
That's okay. That's okay. This broadcast won't go out for a while anyway, so it won't go out for a few days. Pi. You've heard of Pi?
That's
Radio
Roulette.
Records.
Oh,
Who released Roulette Records. We're planning to re-release Maybe.
they did.
You made the single? They did the
single,
album.
Yes. No, the single.
They
Oh,
might.
they just might.
They're grabbing for straws.
So
Yeah.
good. I'd be
They have
sorry.
enough.
How do you feel about it?
It could only be good publicity, really. I mean, you couldn't knock it.
No, it's very good, but it doesn't compare at all with the
What we're
Philadelphia
doing
sound.
now. Right, so actually, to
It
me...
shows your versatility, perhaps?
Right. Plus, it shows that was then, and this is now. It's like it shows to me the maturity that the group has obtained from then up until now. It's like you can hear it in the voices that they've developed a little more, and you do much more with them. You're able to create, really create now more than you were then.
Well, I
because
feel
you
the
didn't have
opposite.
knowledge.
I think it's a horrible idea. I do, because it splits your concentration of airplay. So you may have 2 records out on 2 different labels, and you cannot get one hit because they're both being played. And it's an old sound.
That, by the way, is Sheila with a very definite view. Sheila, may I ask, where you got a beautiful Scottish name like Sheila Ferguson?
Isn't it lovely? I asked my mother the same thing, and she didn't tell me, so I'm not going to ask anymore.
She didn't like the name. She thought she'd name it.
Getting back to the Philadelphia sound, we'll stick with Sheila for a bit. Is the Philadelphia sound always recorded at Sigma Studios, or is it some things spread out throughout Philadelphia?
Yes, there are 2 Sigma studios. One is on 11th Street in Philadelphia, and the other has just been built in the new office buildings of Campbell and Huff, which makes it much more accessible to the artists because you're right there. You don't have to go from building to building. So there are 2 now, one right in the studio, in the company, and one, the original one, in the on 11th Street.
So Sigma is
It's still
basically
Sigma,
what
though. They
Philadelphia
stick
is
with
all
the same
about.
sound, yeah.
How many artists are going to be contracted to produce the Philadelphia sound? Is it going to be limited to the 3 Degrees, the OJs, and 1 or 2
To produce the Philadelphia, to be produced by the Philadelphia Sound.
Yeah.
No, they're signing people all the time. They just got a new female artist by the name of Carolyn Crawford, and we were in the studio and we happened to hear a couple of her tracks, and they were fantastic. I mean, this chick really sings, so I believe they're signing new people all the time.
And they also
and they're expanding.
So it's going to be another Tamla Motown label in
I hope
fact,
so, yeah.
in its way.
Derek and Cindy.
Yeah,
They have a new record
duo.
out.
Derek and Cindy, we haven't heard from
Brother
over
and
here
sister.
yet.
It's brand new. They just released a record in England, which would probably be over here shortly.
Oh, that's good. I've got 1 or 2 other things written down here, like what brought you together?
Necessity.
And who's the leader? Well, you went through that just at the beginning, high school days and all the rest. Who is the
You
leader?
asked her all the good questions.
Our manager. Because there's no leader in this group. That's what keeps us together. There's no fighting. Nobody's going to become a star and pull any of those super heavy tricks on you. It's just a group. Equality. And it's totally quality.
Well, I've only seen you rehearsing one number. That was when Sheila was
Coincidence.
just in the centre,
Yeah.
and you appeared to be the leader. That was just coincidence.
Yeah.
So for another song, somebody else takes lead.
Exactly.
I see.
And plus, right now, it's quite possible that Sheila could be doing a lot of things for a while, because you want people, when you get a hit sound, to identify with that.
Yeah.
So we'll slowly but surely switch a line here and there, and maybe eventually, when we really get the freedom that we want, we can just show them that everybody can do everything. But right now, we'll keep it pretty well concentrated, and don't mind one bit. There's no jealousy or anything.
Well, that's good.
Let's have an argument, but
Liberate the whole thing.
Richie tells me he's going to make you into the biggest group ever.
He tells you that, but
Ever.
he never tells us that. All we hear is work.
Yeah, I heard that.
You are horrible. You will always be horrible, and people only give you standing ovations because they feel sorry for you. That's right.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that sounds like a villain. How do you say it? Well, he thinks we're Robin Schreiben.
I'm sorry for the way I am.
Now, how could you possibly get a swollen head, or how could your ego possibly
From being beat in it so much.
Well, you must get a little bit swollen head when you hear thousands of people cheering.
No, they make you feel like, oh wow, we are something.
I don't believe it. You don't believe it.
It's like, oh gee, they like us, they like us. It's really
You had a
lovely.
terrific week or fortnight at the Talk of the Town in London.
Yeah, tremendous.
Do you know that we broke all records there?
So I heard.
And we were
Every single
singing,
night.
pardon me, we were singing our hit record there, which was #1 for at least 2 or 3 weeks in a row. When Will I See You Again? Twice.
Each
We'd sing
night.
it once, and they would go through so much pandemonium, we'd have to sing it again. And then they would say again, but of course you can't overdo it.
Yeah.
But I would have sung it again.
Well,
honestly.
the nice part about it was when we sing it the second time, we get the audience to sing along with us. And it was great because everybody knew the words. I mean, they knew lead, background, everything. They knew the whole thing.
And then we recorded a live album in the north of England when we went to Leicester.
Right.
And on that particular track that they recorded, they were singing again, so that's going to really sound good if it's fed into the microphones.
It did.
When
They
is
had
that
all
coming
the-
out?
Pardon?
So
When
they
is
can
that
get it
coming out?
processed.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
We've always wanted to record a live album because to us that's when
Where the strength is.
right, that's where the 3 degrees are truly the 3 degrees. I mean, in recording studios, you stand and you're looking at a microphone and you have to like project feeling, make yourself sort of
Feel
a
affection
picture
for a mic.
of the people that are going to be listening to this, whereas on stage, they're right there.
Yeah.
And all the feeling and everything is just automatic. It's easier, right? Much easier.
Well, the OJs have done one live in
Yeah.
London, and it was quite successful.
Yeah, I like
if I may say so, they dragged some of the tracks out a little bit too long.
Yeah.
That
Well,
can
we
happen on
tried
stage.
to,
They possibly ruined one or two.
You know what it is when you're looking at people and everybody's grooving together. Like nowadays, since rock music has taken such a great sweep across the world, when they play those 15-minute songs and things, people groove longer. It's different when you're listening and you can't see what's going on. So I imagine that was probably a mistake on the engineer's part. Like he should have probably faded it out or something, or told them this particular night, cut your song short. Because I agree with you, you can lose people who are at home listening and are hearing the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But one
Of course,
thing
this is
that-
very much a personal view on my point. I mean,
well.
this record has gone to #1 in all the charts.
Me
You
too.
know,
Me
the
too.
OJs.
Oh.
So it can't be all that bad, really.
Yeah.
It's
One on
just
that
my
really
own
love,
particular view, you know.
Wildflower.
I think too, you know, something else. We listen to all the albums that all different acts recorded, and a lot of them will like put out an album, and then they'll do it live, and they'll have the majority of the live album is like the same thing you just bought, and we really want to try very hard not to do that.
Yes.
So we got the majority of the live album is all new material, things that we do in the show. And also recordings, you know. So to us, I think it should really be fantastic.
And
It should be good.
that reverts, everything goes around. You see that? That reverts back to our original idea with our manager of getting into show business and developing an act. Like, if we didn't have an act to do, we'd have to sing the album songs because that's all we know.
Right.
Yes.
But since we had an act, we could do our act live with only the hit songs in the show. So the whole thing
It
came
made
back
for a
around
better
full circle.
album, and that way the people, they don't feel cheated. Like they say, well, I got that album. The only difference is that the audience is
Right.
on it. This way, I mean, you'll have to buy them both because it's not the same
And
thing.
the only song they
Yes.
ever could have had or heard before by us is MacArthur Park. And that's a totally different arrangement.
Right.
It's the arrangement that's been winning us standing ovations on stage for 8 years.
Yeah, it's very good.
So
we finally
it's
recorded
wonderful to finally get it on tape. It's completely different from the one on the album.
Is it really?
It's like the entire song with the dance segment also, which I wish people could have a video cassette
Yeah.
so they could see the whole thing, because it's really something.
That
Yeah,
would
I
be
wish they could see you
phenomenal.
as well. Just watching your rehearsals was good enough for me. I enjoyed that. A couple of final questions from me anyway. I don't know what the rest of the boys have got. Gamble and Huff, of course, are the big thing as regards the Philadelphia sound. They're the producers.
Of the year.
Who's this J.B. Jefferson, whom I see on some of your songs?
Okay, Gamble and Huff have a staff of writers, and they are training them to be good producers. So that because the weight is getting very heavy on them to produce and to write, and you know a writer cannot write constantly. It has to be a thing that comes spontaneously.
Yes.
So J.B. Jefferson is one of the writers on Philly International, along with Bruce Hawes and Simmons and
Bunny Siegler.
and a guy named Life and Conway and you know the whole gang.
I just saw the
But
name
they're all
Jefferson crop up
excellent.
3 or 4
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
on one album.
He's
really
really
want
to
to
smashes.
fall into our bag, where we fall into his bag with songs, because they're very feminine and very light and very nice. Like on the first album, he wrote "I Like Being a Woman," and it's just the perfect type song that we would like to be identified with. So he's excellent.
Can I ask you what your new single is going to be called?
Gotta get your love back.
Gotta Get Your Love Back.
Yeah.
Look forward to hearing it.
Okay.
3 Degrees. Thank you very much.
Thank
indeed.
you. It was a pleasure. All together now.
Any more questions?
The last time.
And what do you think of the Dutch public during the
Very
theater?
receptive.
I mean, what more could you say when you leave where you were born and raised and brought up, and you come all the way across the water to a place where people have never heard of you before, and they automatically give you a hit record? I mean, #1.
First in the world.
5, was it 3 or 5 weeks? 6 weeks in the chart being #1. I mean, how could you help but I mean, you'd have to love them. Because, I mean, without them, I mean,
After
they
8 years?
ages. I mean, you've been fighting for 8 years to get a record that would finally do something. And when you say we're the 3 degrees, they wouldn't say the 3 what? You know, it really,
Are you
much easier. It's beautiful.
Is the Dutch people quite different to other people of other countries? For example, the German people or the English is
Dutch people are very
the great difference between them.
You know, it's a very home-loving, homebody sort of place. It's very quaint, and everybody's just nice and relaxed and slow.
We always
and
found
calm.
great
It's
houses
nice.
everywhere.
They don't rush around and say, hurry up, you know, you're not eating your appetizer and they're always taking your plate from underneath you before you finish eating. It's just everybody's, I like it.
Relaxed.
With the bicycles and the canals
Oh,
and
yes.
everything, that's
The air
dynamite.
is fresh. It hasn't been.
That's something you don't have anymore at home.
And,
You know,
yeah.
everybody's so busy rushing and speeding around and trying to get ahead of the other person. They don't have the chance to sit back and enjoy the simplicity of life itself.
Right. to
And you
enjoy
got
life.
that here.
Right.
Good food, wholesome food, that's everybody
Pea
can healthy.
soup.
Yeah, and we already saw that. We had 3 little houses side by side that we wanted, but people live in them, so we got to get them to move.
And we have some time after so much traveling around in the world for your own privacy. So, in life.
We have such time?
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. We have such time?
Time enough for privacy.
No.
As of yet, we haven't had any, not really where you can actually, if you want to get up in the morning, say go horseback riding.
Take a
or-
plane and fly to
take a-
Holland.
Right, take a plane, fly to Holland, or whatever you want to do.
Take a week and
It
stay in
hasn't,
Holland.
the opportunity hasn't
Oh, Manchester.
been, it hasn't been available yet, but we're looking forward to it because a lot of the countries that we've had the pleasure of visiting while we're doing the European tour, we'd like to, go back and spend some time and really get to really know the history of the places and get into the people a little more because they really are some very fantastic countries with very beautiful people.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. This is Fayette Puckney of the 3 Degrees, and you keep on listening to Radio G. It's fantastic.
Let's give you some plugs, okay?
Yes. Thank you very much.
What's your last name? How do you go on the air?
Rick.
Rick Flynn.
Rick Flynn.
Rick, he's just dynamite. Listen to him do it to you. Rick Flynn is the man I dig. What more can you say than Rick Flynn is the man to listen to, right?
Goodbye and thanks.
Thanks very much.
I didn't know anything
I'm
else.
trying to think of it, to sing something. I can't say, I know. Can't say, well, I see you again. Can't call him a dirty old man. They don't know Get Your Love Back.
No,
We'll just let it. We'll think of one.
you're at the station. It doesn't matter, that's fine, actually.
Wait a minute. I tell you what, just tell me.
I can make it.
We're gonna say, with 3 degrees and gargle, ooh, ooh,
So you weren't pressing the button by any chance, were you?
No,
That's okay.
that means that you get nothing.
Yeah, it stops the tape.
Oh, okay. And just, Rick's out of sight, okay?
Oh, Rick Flynn.
Sheila.
No, too corny.
No, it's fine, but I wouldn't make it, okay?
What's the ending name?
I'll just say, we'll say, within 3 degrees.
Hi,
Just
with the 3
harmonize.
degrees.
Ooh, Rick, that's what I thought. That's what it was, okay?
Hi.
Hi,
With the 3 degrees.
Rick.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. That's great. Thank you very much.
Messing around with
Thank you.
you.